When it comes to weight loss, the question of whether total calorie intake or meal timing has a greater impact has generated considerable interest in both scientific and popular circles. While meal timing strategies such as intermittent fasting, early time-restricted eating, or late-night meal avoidance can influence metabolism, blood sugar regulation, and circadian alignment, research consistently indicates that total caloric intake remains the primary driver of fat loss. Simply put, consistently consuming fewer calories than the body expends produces a negative energy balance, which is the fundamental requirement for losing body fat, regardless of when meals are consumed. However, meal timing can still provide complementary benefits that support adherence, metabolic health, and energy levels. Numerous studies examining intermittent fasting and time-restricted eating show that while participants often experience modest weight loss, these effects are largely explained by spontaneous reductions in calorie intake rather than a direct boost to metabolic rate. For example, research comparing individuals who consume the same number of calories either within a restricted eating window or spread throughout the day found that weight loss and fat reduction were comparable when total caloric intake was matched. These findings suggest that fasting or early feeding windows do not dramatically increase the number of calories burned. Rather, they often help people naturally reduce energy intake by limiting opportunities for snacking or overeating. Calorie restriction remains the dominant factor because fat loss depends on creating an energy deficit. When the body receives fewer calories than it requires for maintenance and activity, it draws on stored fat for energy. Meal timing can influence how comfortable and sustainable this deficit is. People may find it easier to avoid late-night snacking or to manage hunger within a structured eating window, but the underlying principle is that energy balance dictates fat loss outcomes. Studies have consistently shown that individuals can achieve similar reductions in body weight and body fat whether they eat 3 larger meals, 6 smaller meals, or adopt a time-restricted eating pattern, as long as total calories are controlled. That said, meal timing can enhance other aspects of metabolic health, even if it does not independently drive fat loss. Eating earlier in the day aligns with circadian peaks in insulin sensitivity, optimizing glucose utilization and reducing postprandial blood sugar spikes. Avoiding late-night meals helps prevent metabolic stress during the body's natural fasting period, which may improve lipid metabolism, lower inflammation, and support better sleep. These benefits are valuable for overall health and may support adherence to a calorie-restricted plan, even if they do not directly accelerate fat loss. For instance, people who front-load calories in the morning often experience more stable energy, reduced cravings, and improved mood, making it easier to maintain a caloric deficit over time. Another consideration is how meal composition interacts with both calories and timing. High-protein meals, adequate fiber, and healthy fats promote satiety, reduce overeating, and help maintain lean muscle mass during weight loss. While the timing of these meals can influence glucose handling and circadian rhythm alignment, their macronutrient content and total caloric load are more influential in determining fat loss outcomes. A nutrient-dense, calorie-controlled breakfast or lunch can support energy levels and metabolic function, regardless of whether the meal is eaten early or later in the day. Behavioral factors also highlight why calorie intake tends to outweigh meal timing. People often gravitate toward eating patterns that reduce hunger and simplify food choices. Time-restricted eating or intermittent fasting can help some individuals naturally reduce calories by shortening the eating window, but this effect is secondary to the primary mechanism of energy restriction. Similarly, spacing meals throughout the day or front-loading calories in the morning can improve satiety, adherence, and mood, but if overall intake exceeds expenditure, weight loss will be limited regardless of timing. In practical terms, this means that individuals aiming for fat loss should prioritize total calorie control while considering meal timing as a supportive tool rather than a primary mechanism. Creating a slight energy deficit through portion control, mindful eating, and nutrient-dense meals is the foundation for sustainable fat loss. Structured meal timing, such as early time-restricted feeding, can complement this approach by improving glucose regulation, reducing late-night snacking, and enhancing circadian alignment, which may make caloric control easier to maintain. In conclusion, while meal timing can positively influence metabolism, appetite regulation, and circadian alignment, total calorie intake remains the most significant determinant of fat loss. Scientific studies demonstrate that energy balance drives reductions in body fat and metabolic improvements, and that variations in when meals are consumed largely exert their influence through effects on overall caloric consumption and adherence. Meal timing strategies should be viewed as complementary tools that support sustainable eating patterns, optimize energy levels, and reinforce metabolic health, but they cannot replace the fundamental principle of maintaining a consistent caloric deficit for effective weight loss.